Good afternoon, everybody. I welcome you one and all for this today's class, Association and Causation. But before starting this particular class, I would like to make an important announcement. We are going to have the first internal assessment for this sixth semester batch on July 31st, that is Friday, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Please again note the date. It is on July 31st, which falls on Friday, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It is the paper. The internal assessment is for a period of 3 hours, and we are going to have the following topics for this first internal assessment. They are, please note down, concepts, C-O-N-C-E-P-T-S, concepts. Number 2, social sciences. Number 3, statistics. Number 4, nutrition. Number 5, general epidemiology. Number 6, environmental sanitation. Number 6, environmental sanitation. I hope you have noted all these topics. These are the topics meant for the first internal assessment paper, and this is going to be on July 31st on Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the marks for the paper are 60 marks. The marks for the paper for first internal assessment is 60 marks. We are going to have 2 long essay questions. Each long essay question is of 10 marks. So there are 2 long essay questions which amount to 20 marks. Likewise, we are going to have 10 short notes. 10 short notes, and each short note will be 4 marks. So total 10 short notes will be 40 marks. So 2 long questions, 10 short notes, the total number of marks are 60 marks. Please do remember that. It is on July 31st, Friday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So let me start the topic for today's lecture, that is association and causation. We have learned in general epidemiology, and of which the various epidemiological study designs, descriptive, then we have analytical and experimental epidemiological designs. So in descriptive epidemiological study design, what we have is the disease is identified, and the disease is related to agent, host, and environmental factors. By this, a causal hypothesis is established between the cause and the effect. So this causal hypothesis is further tested and proved by analytical epidemiology and experimental epidemiology. So in this way, the hypothesis is associated with agent, host, and environmental factors which help in understanding about the disease. Epidemiology aims at promotion of health by discovering the causes of disease and the way in which they can be modified. Identification of causal relationship between disease and suspected factor is the basis of epidemiology. So in this pic, what we see is an environmental exposure which may result in disease or other outcome. As I said, descriptive studies help in identifying the disease in the community, and when this disease is related to agent, host, and environmental factors, what we have is an etiological hypothesis. And this etiological hypothesis is further tested by analytical and experimental studies which further confirm or refute the observed association, whether it is causal or not. Causal means whether the prescribed cause will lead into the prescribed effects or the effect that is we observe. So in this relationship, we like to discuss what is association and relationship. Association and relationship are both used interchangeably, and association is defined as the concurrence of two variables more often than would be expected by chance. It doesn't mean a causal relationship. So correlation indicates the degree of association between two characteristics. The correlation coefficients usually range from -1 to +1. So if you look at this diagram of correlation coefficient, -1 represents strong negative linear relationship. 0 represents no linear relationship, and 1 represents strong positive linear relationship. Every causation can be a correlation, but every correlation cannot be a causation. Correlation cannot be used to invoke causation for the simple reason that the sequence of exposure preceding disease, temporal association, cannot be assumed to have occurred. So because we are not going to see what exactly happens before the disease, we just make a mathematical assumption in correlation. Secondly, correlation doesn't measure risk. It doesn't tell the extent of risk. So it may be said that causation implies correlation, but correlation doesn't imply causation. Types of association. Broadly, the types of associations are categorized into number 1, spurious association, indirect association, and direct association. Direct association is again divided into one-to-one causal relationship and multifactorial causation. Spurious association. Sometimes, spurious means false. Sometimes an observed association between a disease and a suspected factor may not be real, as can be understood by the following example. Let me quote a study in United Kingdom about this spurious association. In United Kingdom, it was observed that home deliveries constituted around 5,174 and the perinatal mortality rate was 5.4 per 1,000. The hospital deliveries noted were 11,156 and the perinatal mortality rate was observed to be 27.8 per 1,000 9 months. So what we have observed is that the perinatal mortality rate in hospitals is more compared to that of the perinatal mortality rate in home deliveries. This association is spurious for the simple reason that in hospitals what it happens, they attract high-risk women because of the availability of various instruments and because of the availability of expertise, while the same is not there in home deliveries. As a result, apparently, the perinatal mortality is more in hospital births than in home births, because high-risk women get admitted in hospital, whereas normal women without any risk, they get delivered in the homes. So it might be concluded that, as in the above example, that homes are a safer and a better place for delivery of births than hospitals. So it is observed that such a conclusion is spurious or artifactual. So because it is seen that in home deliveries, the perinatal mortality is more compared to that of hospital deliveries, where the compared to hospital deliveries, where the perinatal mortality rate is more compared to home deliveries. Since the type of bias where like is not compared with the like, selection bias is very important in epidemiological studies, because the conditions that are seen in home while conducting deliveries are different compared to that of conditions that are seen in hospitals. So it may lead to a spurious association or an association when none actually existed. Now, there is another association, what I said earlier in the grouping or categorization, it is known as indirect association. Many associations which first appeared to be causal have been further found to be of indirect association. The indirect association is most often a statistical association between a characteristic of interest and a disease due to the presence of another factor, which is known as the confounding factor or the common factor, and which is common to both the characteristic and the disease. So confounding factor we have read in case of case control study also, which is associated with the cause and the effect. So the third factor what we said is the confounding variable. So cause relates in effect. Now there is another factor called the third factor, which is associated with the cause, which is associated with the outcome. I'll try to explain this concept further with examples in the subsequent slides. Since it is both related to both the disease and to the variable, it might explain the statistical association between the disease and a characteristic wholly or in part. So this third variable, as I said, is also known as the confounding variable, and it is seen that it is associated with the cause, and it is seen it is associated with the effect or the outcome. Such confounded variables, example age, sex, social class, are potentially and probably present in all data and represent a formidable obstacle to overcome in trying to assess the causal nature of the relationship. That's why we have something called matching in the case of a case control study where the confounding variables are eliminated or weeded out. Two examples of an indirect association are seen over here. Altitude and endemic goiter. Usually we associate endemic goiter with altitude, but this is a spurious association because as we go to the top, we find there is iodine deficiency, and iodine deficiency is associated with endemic goiter. So altitude forms a sort of what you call a confounding factor, which is associated with iodine deficiency and endemic goiter. Therefore, the association between altitude and endemic goiter is spurious. So what we have observed, as I said, is the relationship between altitude and endemic goiter is spurious. Sucrose and CSD. It has been observed that people who consume a lot of sugar are associated with myocardial infarctions, as seen in this example. Sugar is associated with coronary heart disease, is a spurious association. It has been observed that cigarette smoking is associated with a lot of consumption of coffee or tea, wherein a lot of sugar is added. And cigarette smoking is independently associated also with coronary heart disease. So in a way, it is seen that people who consume sugar are found to have a lot of coronary heart disease, are found to have a lot of myocardial infarction because of coronary heart disease. So in fact, the association of sugar with coronary heart disease or myocardial infarction is spurious, and it has been found in subsequent studies that there is no role of sugar as far as the causation of myocardial infarction or coronary heart disease. Sometimes knowledge of indirect associations can be applied towards reducing disease risk. Now, as seen in cholera, even before the discovery of the cholera vibrio, elimination of certain water supplies, which I have also explained to you in the previous epidemiological study designs in non-randomized trials, that there is a marked decrease in the new cases of the disease. Such indirect associations must be pursued, for it is likely that they may provide etiological cues. Now, it has been seen that Vibrio cholerae is associated with contaminated water supply, and Vibrio cholerae is associated with cholera. So it means that the contaminated water supply can result in cholera because of the presence of Vibrio cholerae in contaminated water supply. So the association of contaminated water supply with cholera is spurious. But this knowledge helps in understanding the fact that if the contaminated water supply is restricted or it is decontaminated or any purification is done, probably cholera is also reduced. The third is direct association, or of which there are two types: one-to-one causal relationship or association, or multifactorial relationship. Now, what is one-to-one causal relationship? Two variables are said to be causally related, A and B, if the change in A is followed by the change in B. If it does not, then the relationship cannot be causal. This is also known as one-to-one causal relationship. This is seen in a typical example of measles. So measles virus is responsible for the causation of measles. So measles virus is responsible for measles disease. The above concept is based on the presence of Koch's postulate, which says that the cause must be present and the cause must be present and the cause must be sufficient for the causation of disease. The above concept of Koch's postulate, however, does not fit in case of a tuberculosis, where besides tuberculosis, there are other additional factors like what we have, the host factors and the environmental factors, such as host susceptibility, which are required to produce a disease. The concept of one-to-one relationship is further complicated by the fact that a single cause may lead to multiple outcomes. Many times it is observed that a single cause may result in multiple outcomes. This is seen in the following example. Hemolytic streptococci is seen to cause streptococcal tonsillitis. It is also seen to cause scarlet fever. It is also seen to cause erysipelas. So hemolytic streptococci causing streptococcal tonsillitis as one-to-one causal relationship cannot be established by this example, as it causes multiple diseases or outcomes. Next is what we understand is multifactorial causation. Many a times, more than one factor may be responsible for the causation of disease. They may act independently or they may act synergistically to have a reaction at the cellular level, which may be responsible for the causation of disease. In this example, it is seen that factor 1, factor 2, factor 3 act independently at the cellular level and cause a reaction at the cellular level, and which may further result in disease. It is a model. This is again a model of multifactorial. In the subsequent, what we see is factor 1 plus factor 2 plus factor 3 all react synergistically and they may cause reaction at cellular level to cause disease. For example, if you look at coronary heart disease or lung cancer, in lung cancer what we find is there is the effect of lung smoking, there is the effect of environmental pollution, there is the effect of also the exposure to asbestos, which may act independently and also synergistically to produce lung cancer. Likewise, in coronary heart disease, there may be smoking, consumption of alcohol, or there may be increase in serum cholesterol level, hypercholesteremia, hyperlipidemia, or there may be lack of exercise or sedentary habits, which may act at the individual level synergistically on the lungs or on the heart to produce coronary heart disease in the person. Now, what are the additional criteria to say that there is causality, or for judging causality? They are temporal association, strength of the association, specificity of the association, consistency of the association, biological plausibility, and coherence of the association. All these can be very well be understood by the example of cigarette smoking causing lung cancer, which I am going to highlight in the subsequent slides. The hypothesis of cigarette smoking and lung cancer are examined in the light of the additional criteria as mentioned. Now, temporal association. What do you mean by temporal association? It means there should be a sequence of events that will occur before the causation of the disease, or there would be a time period for the sequence of events to occur before the causation of the disease. So it means that a causal association requires that exposure to a putative cause, and it must precede temporally the onset of the disease, which is purported to produce to allow for any necessary period of induction and latency. So what does it mean that? It means that for any effect, there should be exposure to a cause, and that should precede the effect, and that is what is meant by temporal association. This requirement is basic to the understanding of causal concept. So anything exposure to a etiological agent is required for the causation of disease or for the causation of effect, and this exposure often precedes to the effect or the disease. Lung cancer occurs in smokers of long standing. This satisfies the temporal requirement. So what we have seen in this example is lung cancer is not in a moment or in a day or in days. It requires the effect of smoking for a long period of time before it may result in lung cancer. So this long period of time and the occurrence of event before cancer is known as temporal association or temporal requirement. Further, the increase in the consumption of cigarettes preceded by about 30 years the increase in death rates from lung cancer. These observations are compatible with the long-term latent period characteristics of carcinogenesis. Likewise, when we study about cancers, what we need to understand that there would be a long time which would have preceded, or long-term incubation period which would have preceded the causation of cancer. Cancer doesn't occur in a moment or in a day. There will be a sufficiently long period for the exposure to a particular risk factor or a particular etiological agent before it may result in cancer. Strength of the association. Usually the strength of the association is based upon the relative risk and the dose response relationship and the duration response relationship. Larger the relative risk, the greater the likelihood of a causal relationship, which you understood in a case control study and in cohort study. Especially in cohort study, if the relative risk is more than 1, there is every likelihood of a causal relationship between the risk factor and the outcome, or the cause and the effect. Further, the relationship is also strengthened if there is a biological gradient or a dose response relationship and duration response relationship. This is very well understood by the example of smoking of 30 cigarettes or 10 cigarettes per day for a period of 5 years. So 10 cigarettes per day is dose response relationship. For a period of 5 years or say 10 years is time response relationship. So duration response or time response relationship. So this is very much required for the causation of cancer or lung cancer in this typical example of cigarette smoking and lung cancer. The causal relationship of cigarette smoking and lung cancer is based on 3 points: relative risk, dose response relationship, and decrease in the risk of cessation of smoking. So this is very well explained by the tables in the next slide. So in the table that is present in the slide, the top table shows the death rate and the relative risk for smokers and non-smokers. If we see the daily average cigarette smoked, if the cigarette smoker 1 to 14, the relative risk is 6.7. If the cigarette smoked are 15 to 24 in number, the relative risk increases to 12.3. And if the cigarette smoked are more than 25, more than or equal to 25 or more than 25, the relative risk of death increases by 23.7. So what is relative risk? Relative risk is nothing but the ratio of incidence of disease among exposed, incidence of disease or death among exposed to the incidence of disease or death among non-exposed. So what we find in this above example is as the quantity of cigarettes, dose response is increased, we find or the number of cigarette smokes are smoked are increased, we find the relative risk is also increasing from a value over here, cited in this example from 6.7 to 23.7. So what it states that in the last thing 23.7, there is 23.7 times the risk of death in smokers who smoke 25 cigarettes are more compared to that of non-smokers who don't smoke a cigarette. Now if we see that in the subsequent table in the same slide, lung cancer mortality ratios in ex-cigarette smokers by a number of years stopped smoking, that is in British patients. So this table shows the years stopped smoking and the mortality ratio. So what we find is mortality ratio is high among people who are still smoking. That is in the following example. This example, the British patients who are still smoking, the mortality rate is 15.8. And those who are stopped, smoking. Since 1 to 4 years, the mortality ratio is 16. And those who have stopped since 5 to 9 years, again, note the point, the mortality rate decreases to 5.9. And as the number of years increase, the mortality rates drop. And if you see non-smokers, the mortality rate is 1. So by this, what it is understood is smoking reduces or smoking inflicts lung cancer, and if the smoking is stopped, the mortality caused by lung cancer is automatically decreased, thus proving a role in the causation of lung cancer due to smoking. In other words, smoking causes lung cancer also in this particular way of understanding the role of smoking in lung cancers. Next is the specificity of the association. The concept of specificity implies one-to-one relationship between the cause and effect. So there should be a one-to-one relationship between the cause and effect. Again, we'll take the example of cigarette smoking and lung cancer. Cigarette smoking, it has been observed, is not only linked with lung cancer, but several other diseases such as coronary heart disease, bronchitis, emphysema, carcinoma cervix. As it is associated with so many diseases, there is apparent lack of specificity, but this cannot be a strong agreement so as to dismiss the causal hypothesis of cigarette smoking with lung cancer. Since cigarette smoking is associated with a number of causes, it doesn't mean that cigarette smoking is not associated with lung cancer. So if you see the expected and observed deaths for smokers of cigarettes compared to that of non-smokers, there are seven prospective studies which have shown the causes of death. So what we find is the cancer of lung. It is seen that the cancer of lung, the mortality rate is 10.8 and the expected number of deaths is 170. So the mortality rate due to cancer of lung is the highest compared to that of all the mortality rates with the other number of diseases that cigarette smoking can produce. So what we observed is such increased mortality due to smoking, which may result in cancer of lung, indicates specificity of cigarette smoking causing lung cancer. Specificity supports causal interpretation, but lack of specificity does not negate it. Consistency of the association. The association is consistent if the results are replicated when studied in different settings and by different methods. It means that if somebody does an experiment and if the result can be repeated in different areas of the world or in different laboratories or in different places, it means, and you get the same result, it means the association is consistent. A consistent association has been found between cigarette smoking and lung cancer. So, more than 50 retrospective studies and at least 9 prospective studies in different countries had shown a consistent association between cigarette smoking and subsequent development of lung cancer, lending support to a causal association. So these studies were held in different places and different centers and in different countries. Again, they have proved a point that cigarette smoking causes lung cancer and the association was found to be consistent. Biological plausibility. Causal association is supported if there is biological credibility to the association. So there should be some biological explanation or response to the causal association. And if the association agrees with correct understanding of the response of the cells, tissues, organs, and systems to stimuli. Now, this can be very well be understood by the example. Cigarette smoking and lung cancer hypothesis is biologically plausible. The biological credibility, in fact, produces a convincing evidence in favor of a causal association. Coherence of the association. The historical evidence of the rising consumption of tobacco in the form of cigarettes and the rising incidence of lung cancer are coherent. What we have found is throughout history, when we see that if the people have started consuming cigarettes more and more, there is a rise of the incidence of lung cancers among the populations where people are consuming are smoking more and more cigarettes. This shows that the association is coherent. Male and female differences in the trends of lung cancer death rates are also coherent with more recent adoption of cigarette smoking by women. So the differences what we find even among the males and females of lung cancer happening to them is also because of the increasing consumption of cigarettes by women recently in recent times. Death rates first rose in males and are now increasing more rapidly in females because of the adoption of cigarettes by females. Now, the fall in relative risk of lung cancer when cigarette smoking is stopped, the occurrence of lung cancer from occupational exposure to other carcinogens, and the demonstrated increase in lung cancer risk when workers are exposed to the substances smoke enhance the significance of a causal relationship. So what we find is, we have seen in the previous example that when cigarette smoking is stopped, the relative risk is also stopped of lung cancer decreases or falls. The occurrence of lung cancer from occupational exposure to other carcinogens. Lung cancer also occurs from exposure to other carcinogens, like it may be due to asbestos, which may result in lung cancer. And the increase in lung cancer risk when the workers exposed to the substances like asbestos, they smoke, there is increase in lung cancer risk. All suggests that there is definitely a role of cigarette smoking in the causation of lung cancers. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. So what we need to understand about association and causation are, there are three types of association what we need to understand. They are like this: spurious association, indirect association, and direct association. Direct association is again of one-to-one causal association and multifactorial association. Apart from this, there are other types of associations we have to understand about when we say that the cause is actually related to the effect, or for incriminating the cause subsequent to the effect, or in fact, the cause is responsible for the effect. So what are the other associations we need to understand? They are temporal association, strength of the association, specificity of the association, consistency of the association, biological plausibility, and coherence of the association. Many times you may get a long question about the different types of association, or sometimes it can be a short note depending upon the different types of association like spurious, indirect, and direct association. And what are the various criteria for judging causality also? They can be also a short note. But altogether, this can come as a long question in the university. So make note of this. This topic can be for a long question as well as for a short answer questions or short notes. Again, reminding you before ending this particular lecture class that the internal examination, first internal examination for 6th semester is on July 31st. This falls on Friday, and it is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for a period of 3 hours, and total number of marks are 16 marks, 2 long questions and 10 short notes. Long questions each 10 marks each, and short notes are 4 marks each. Total 16 marks, total 40 marks plus 20 is 60 marks. And the topics that are associated for this first internal examinations are concepts, social sciences, statistics, nutrition, gender epidemiology, and environmental sanitation. Thank you for your patience.